Somewhere along the way, engineers feel they have to choose between being technical or being creative. And with only so many hours in a day, a lot of the energy and focus begins getting devoted to everything technical. So this starts to look like reading articles while eating lunch or eating dinner, watching a lot of videos online about technical topics, trying to stay up on the latest technology and development activities going on or the research going on out there, working on equations or analysis, or even drawing design sketches while on the train or on the bus or waiting in the airport or sitting on an airplane. But over time, this starts to take up a lot of energy, a lot of space, and push out the time and energy and availability for doing creative things. And this is actually counterproductive and can lead to burnout over time. I actually had this happen myself. For many years, I gave up my creativity because I felt like I had to just stay on top of the engineering game, be up on the latest and greatest going on. And the truth is, you can't. You really can't read everything out there or watch all of the videos. There's just so much going on that you really cannot absorb it all. It's a balance of staying on top of just enough, but also having that time and space for other ideas, other activities. So for me, it ended up looking like staying later at work and pulling in longer hours, because after the workday, I would still be reading or still be researching technical articles online, reading journal articles, things like that. And then also it would bleed into the weekends as well. So working on these problems, feeling like I had to put in that extra effort in my own personal time to just stay on top of everything. And slowly, the creative part of me started to fade away. And this happened over a period of years. And I realized years later that I actually missed my creative side. I actually thought about it and I was like, you know what? I don't spend time reading for fun. I'm reading a lot of technical engineering and scientific journals. When was the last time I read a book for fun? I also remember that many, many years ago, I used to like doing artwork. I used to like to draw for fun. And one day I realized, I was like, when was the last time I actually sat down and practiced art for just for the fun of it? So yeah, all of that had disappeared, and I realized that I had to actively start to bring those things back in. This was something that I had to consciously do with my time and energy. So I did start reading for fun, choosing books that were not technical in nature, that were just completely in completely different areas, not even like science fiction, just going back to like old school, reading literature for fun. And then also I started doing things like keeping my own just travel art journal, just a daily art journal that I keep my sketches in. And when I have time, a lot of times it's just 10-15 minutes at lunchtime sketching those things in, and then on the weekends spending time just doing watercolor for fun. And I found that the energy level changed and that creativity started to come back and just made me feel so much better in both, my work and my creative life. So how does all of this happen? How do we end up on this path where we let the technical side completely take over and many of our creative pursuits get put on the back burner? I think a lot of it starts in school, because if you think about it, in engineering in school, a lot of it focuses on the technical. And you may have some electives that you have to do, for your degree program, but a lot of it is focused on all of your time being given up to doing work in the labs or working on studying for exams, writing papers and working on projects and doing presentations and doing all of that teamwork and everything. And all the studying on top of that as well. And a lot of it is just there's only so many hours in the day. So you're just doing the bare minimum to get through it, survive, and get to the other side, get through the whole program, get your degree, and move on to the working professional world. And so a lot of that time and effort of focusing on hobbies and focusing on the creative side just get cut out of the schedule, because it's like, of course I don't have time for hobbies. I am just trying to get through this degree. I'm just trying to get through this course or this semester, right? So I think it starts there. And then once we move on and we graduate and we get into the working world, those same habits carry over into the professional working world. So a lot of the working world is focusing on efficiency and optimization and performance, right? You have all of those metrics around those types of things. And that mindset of, I really don't have time for this, continues on, because then you have more commitments. You have the work, but then you probably also have family and many other commitments in addition to the work, and that personal creative side doesn't get to come back into play. So it really is, we start to lose that. When was the last time we did something for fun and not because there was a metric that was tracking it? So how do we break out of this? How do we get out of this rut? How do we get back on the path to more balance and more creativity? The first is to either, if you have hobbies and outside interests, to keep those, or if you let them go into the background or onto the back burner, how to bring them back to the forefront, how to reawaken those creative pursuits. So thinking back to and thinking about for you, what are the things that I may have given up that I actually miss, that I used to do, that I was interested in, and that I haven't explored in a while? What was that? What is that piece of me that on the creative side that I miss? Or what is something that I really wish I had time to explore, but I just haven't had the time, or I just haven't had the energy, to put in that effort. Maybe it's learning a musical instrument, or maybe it's taking a new art class, or maybe it's doing, a new course, going out and hiking, in nature, whatever it may be. But what are those things that are those creative exercises that you can be doing? Because creativity is a muscle. just like our technical side is a muscle, the creativity side is a muscle, and it has to be exercised, because in actuality engineering and the technical world does flourish with a creative component. It's not all done in a vacuum. We cannot be just, focused on one thing. We actually do really well as engineers when we have outside interests, when we have other things to occupy our brains and to give our brains those fun things to work on, utilizing a different part of our brains and our personalities to come out and engage in a different way. That all supports the technical work as an engineer. It may not seem like it, on the surface, but it really truly is. In order to come up with, solutions to hard problems, or dealing with constraints, or coming up with new and novel ideas. This is what engineering is all about. And it works best when you have something outside to allow your brain to explore, so that when you are coming up against those hard problems, you actually have that creative muscle to rely on to help work through all those problems and issues. So it's not possible to think outside of the box, like we always say in engineering, and coming up with new, novel ideas without having that creative muscle at work. So make sure whatever it is that you're not giving up, your music, your artwork, your, drawing, or, even thinking about, things in a different way, exploring, writing things in a different way. If you have that, don't give that up. And if it's something that you did give up, how can you work to slowly add that back in so that you can begin to regain that balance, and like I did, regain the creative side that was lost over time. Because creativity is truly, you can find out that it can be one of your greatest strengths as an engineer, and that also leads to increasing your potential, in leadership. For me, I found out that, I'm actually a very creative person. So after I went back, rebalanced, and let that creative side out, I found that it came through more and more in my work. And I was the person who was the creative person on the team that would, be the one offering up different ideas and things, because it was all based on things that I had thought about in a different way, or experienced or approached from a different angle, from that creative mindset. So if there's something that you've been thinking about where you want to explore again in your creative world, or if you had given up, think about those things and think about how you can actively bring them back, and bring it back into balance. So I hope this helps, and I will see you in the next one.